Jason Momoa has always carried the image of a rugged romantic, an untamed heart in a superhero's body. From his early days on Baywatch to global fame as Aquaman, he's captured hearts both on and off screen. But behind the myth, there's a quieter story of devotion, heartbreak, and surprising tenderness. Now let's dive into the full romantic history and meet the women who were part of this unforgettable journey. They met on the sun-soaked set of Baywatch, Hawaii in 1999, two rising stars cast into a world of ocean waves and fleeting fame. Jason Momoa was just beginning to carve out his identity on screen. Simone Jade Mackinnon, an Australian actress with her own quiet fire, quickly became more than a co-star. There was a gentle gravity between them, the kind that doesn't shout but lingers quietly under the surface. The relationship unfolded away from major headlines. It was a time before Jason's fame erupted into the mainstream. They traveled together, supported each other's early careers, and for a while, lived like nomads between filming commitments. In 2004, Jason proposed. The ring wasn't flashy, but it symbolized a promise rooted in something rare: calm loyalty in an industry of instability. Media coverage was light, respectful even. A few red carpets, a few magazine mentions. They were never the couple chased by paparazzi, but those close to them described the bond as real, uncomplicated, and warm. Still, the industry shifted. Jason's ambitions grew larger, and opportunities began pulling him toward the U.S. spotlight. Simone stayed focused on her own acting path in Australia. By 2005, the engagement quietly ended. There was no scandal, no harsh words publicly exchanged, just distance, emotional and geographical, that proved heavier than either could hold. Years later, Jason would reflect, saying that it was one of the most formative relationships of his life. There are no interviews where Simone speaks ill of him, no closure published, only the quiet disappearance of shared photos and a subtle shift in life paths. What remains is the memory of a love that felt peaceful, almost possible, and the quiet ache of what might have been. Jason Momoa was just 8 years old when he first saw Lisa Bonet on TV. She was the effortless rebel on The Cosby Show, the kind of woman who moved through the screen with a quiet, mystical grace. Years later, in 2005, fate pulled them into the same room at a jazz club in Los Angeles. Lisa was there with mutual friends. Jason, wide-eyed and freshly in LA, was struck silent. He later admitted in interviews, "She was literally my childhood crush. And then I met her, and I just kind of freaked out." It wasn't instant in the Hollywood sense. There were no red carpets, no flashing lights. Their dynamic was intimate and spiritual. A plate of grits at a soul food restaurant that night. Had long stepped back from the spotlight, while Jason was still finding his footing in the industry. They didn't chase the cameras, they planted gardens. They lived simply, took little desire for attention. In 2007, they welcomed their first child, girl, Lola. She called him Then came Nicole Wolf in 2008. Parenthood only deepened their bond. For years, they remained Hollywood's quietest power couple. When Jason rose to international stardom with Game of Thrones and Aquaman, he didn't shed that image. Instead, he brought Lisa and the kids to premieres. On red carpets, he'd often wear vintage suits or velvet coats, pieces that echoed Lisa's bohemian spirit. In one interview, he called her the goddess of my universe. In another, he simply said, "Everything I do for my family." There were no scandals, only glimpses. Jason surprising Lisa with a restored 1965 Mustang, the car she drove in her youth. Their public gestures weren't performative. They felt rooted in something older than fame. But like many love stories, theirs wasn't immune to time. In January 2022, they released a joint statement. "We have all felt the squeeze and changes of these transformational times. A revolution is unfolding, and our family is no exception. We free each other to be who we are learning to become." The announcement was poetic, almost sacred. Not a breakup, a release. No details were offered, no accusations, just a promise that the love between them would continue in a different form. They emphasized family. They emphasized dignity. Even now, Jason refers to Lisa not in the past tense, but as someone still deeply interwoven into his life. "We're family," he said months later, his voice softer than usual. He still attends events with their children, still honors her in quiet gestures. It's unclear where the line was drawn, whether it was distance, change, or simply the quiet evolution of two souls. But what's certain is that for 17 years, theirs was a love that refused spectacle. A love that felt hand-woven, stitched with long silences, mutual reverence, and a loyalty that seemed untouched by the noise of the world. Some endings come with fireworks. Others arrive like dusk, gentle, inevitable, and cloaked in a kind of sacred quiet. Jason and Lisa's story wasn't about drama, it was about depth, and though it ended, it never truly vanished. In early 2022, just months after his public separation from Lisa Bonet, Jason Momoa was quietly linked to Mexican actress Eiza Gonzalez. The connection, according to insiders, began through mutual friends in Hollywood. Both were coming off emotionally complex periods. Eiza from a string of brief, highly visible romances, and Jason from a long marriage that ended with grace, but left a noticeable silence in his life. Their dynamic was deliberately low profile. No red carpet appearances, no Instagram declarations. A few discreet outings, motorcycle rides through Malibu, shared dinners behind tinted restaurant windows, were all the press had to work with. But even in those moments, there was a spark. The easy laughter, the way he opened the door for her without thinking. Insiders described their bond as light, exploratory. Two actors navigating fame and emotional recovery at different speeds. Eiza was focused on her career and valued privacy. Jason, still healing, was careful not to move too quickly. By mid-year, the quiet pairing dissolved. There was no headline breakup, just a subtle fade. A source close to them offered only this: "They're just very different people." It was enough. Neither spoke publicly of the relationship, but for a brief moment they found each other at a crossroads. Both famous, both searching, both trying to make room for something new amid the weight of everything old. Sometimes a chapter ends not with conflict, but with a gentle recognition that it simply isn't the story either of them was meant to keep writing. Their story didn't begin with a movie or a red carpet, but in the quieter, off-camera world where most real connections are born. Jason Momoa met Adria Arjona sometime in early 2023. Some say through mutual friends, others through the ever-circulating orbit of actors between projects. What's certain is that by the time whispers began, something between them had already taken root. Adria, the daughter of Guatemalan singer Ricardo Arjona, carried a grounded elegance that resonated with Jason's post-divorce self. Their energy was quiet but vivid, like watching two people who weren't performing for the world, only trying to be real in it. In May 2024, Jason posted a series of photos from a trip to Japan. Motorcycles, temples, soft city light. In one of them, Adria is leaning into him, her smile unguarded. He captioned it simply, "Mi amor." That soft reveal confirmed what many had already suspected. But unlike previous flings, this one seemed to carry a new tone, gentle, measured, content. There were no grand premieres, no hunger for headlines, just moments shared in stillness. Paparazzi caught glimpses of the couple at markets in New Zealand, walking hand in hand through Venice, laughing over coffee in quiet corners of Rome. Each sighting was brief, but the feeling was unmistakable. This was not chaos, it was calm. Jason, who had once described himself as a man always chasing the dream, now seemed rooted. Adria, often understated in interviews, has yet to speak publicly about him. But maybe that silence speaks loudest. There's no drama to retell here. No breakup, no tabloid storm. Only a man who'd once loved fiercely and lost gently, finding someone who walked beside him without noise. The story is still being written, but for now, they move forward in quiet harmony together. In between public relationships, Jason Momoa found himself at the center of occasional whispers, brief, speculative connections that never fully emerged into the spotlight but left quiet trails of curiosity. One of the most persistent rumors surrounded Game of Thrones co-star Emilia Clarke. Their on-screen chemistry as Khal Drogo and Daenerys was electric, and off-screen, their affectionate friendship sparked speculation. Jason often posted playful, heartfelt tributes to Emilia, calling her the moon of my life, echoing their fictional bond. But both actors insisted the love between them was purely platonic, deep, but never romantic. Another name that surfaced was Amber Heard, his co-star in Aquaman. Their flirty rapport during press tours led to whispers, especially after both were single at the same time. Still, no credible reports confirmed a romance, and Jason kept a respectful distance from media noise surrounding her legal controversies. Earlier in his career, Momoa was briefly linked to actress Rose McGowan during the mid-2000s, though the connection was never substantiated by photos or statements. Similarly, Jill Wagner, a co-star from Stargate Atlantis, was mentioned in passing in online forum, but the rumors quickly faded. In 2018, Olivia Munn appeared in headlines with Jason after a lighthearted red carpet exchange. Some fans speculated, but both parties denied anything beyond professional admiration. None of these rumored connections ever solidified in the public eye. They remain as fragments, flashes of possible stories that never quite unfolded. In the end, they speak more to public fascination than personal truth. When Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet announced their separation in early 2022, their joint message carried the weight of care rather than conflict. "We free each other to be who we are learning to become," they wrote, an echo of their uniquely spiritual bond. But while the romance quietly dissolved, their roles as parents remained intact, unwavering. Together they share 2 children, Lola Yolani and Nakoa Wolf. From the beginning, both Jason and Lisa grounded their family life far from Hollywood spectacle, raising their children in nature, focusing on emotional depth over material distractions. That foundation remained even after the split. Jason didn't retreat. He showed up to red carpets with their kids. He attended Zoe Kravitz's premieres, Lisa's daughter from her previous marriage, calling her "my daughter" forever. He continued to refer to Lisa as family in interviews, never once speaking in terms of absence or loss. When asked how they were handling post-divorce life, he simply said, "We're still family, always will be." There were no custody battles, no tabloid bitterness. Instead, there were photos. Jason and Lisa chatting at events, standing side by side at their children's functions, still orbiting each other with quiet respect. In a world that often turns breakups into battlefields, theirs became a study in grace. 2 people choosing to shift their connection rather than sever it. 2 parents prioritizing presence over pride. The love may have changed form, but it didn't. It vanished. It settled into something quieter, perhaps more enduring, the kind of love that shows up no matter what. And for their children, that continuity may be the most lasting legacy of all. From early engagements to Hollywood royalty, Jason Momoa's love life has mirrored the spirit he brings to his roles, intense, passionate, and full of heart. Over the years, the relationships may have changed, but the emotional imprint he left on fans remains. Whether falling in love or learning to let go, his journey reveals something rare in celebrity stories, that strength and vulnerability can exist side by side. In a world that often moves too fast, Momoa's romantic path reminds us of the value in slowing down, staying grounded, and loving deeply, even when it doesn't last forever.